Well, we have to start with Harry Kane, because you spent 4 years playing with him at Tottenham and worked with him as a kind of young academy player as a keeper. What have you made of this development today? It appears that the club have agreed a fee for him, and now it's kind of down to the player. There are other reports suggesting that he's, veering towards staying and maybe being a free agent next summer if the club, want him to do that.
Yeah, I said this the other night. I was doing the transfer show, and it wouldn't surprise me if he stayed at Tottenham. I actually thought it was leaning towards he would stay at Tottenham for the year and see it out. It wouldn't surprise me if he went as well. It was This is a uncharted territory for Daniel Levy to allow a player, especially the best player possibly in the history of the club, to have a year left on his contract, and at the age that he's at. It's not normal that this happens to Daniel, because he is one of the very best in the business at making sure that all the contracts are up to date, up to speed, and he protects the assets at all time. What Harry, it still wouldn't surprise me if he stayed. It wouldn't surprise me if he turned it down. Wouldn't surprise me if he went. He's such a good pro, a good guy, great in the changing room, work ethic off the charts. You don't get graded anything if you turn up late for training and leave first thing. He's a consummate professional. Leads a line for England. Can't say enough good things about him. Could Tottenham actually let him leave without getting a fee? Then you have to take the business side into it. Or did Daniel Levy and the board finally accept the fee and say, well, now it's your choice.
Yeah.
And it's sort of like out of our hands, and maybe the fans don't have a backlash at the board as much if it happens. But all these things wouldn't be spoken about if he had multiple years in his contract. Because if there was multiple years, then I think and Charlie, what would happen is Daniel Levy wouldn't even take the phone call. He would just be like, well, you're our player. And we can discuss possibly a new deal.
But I don't doubt for a minute they've been trying, Brad. They probably have been trying for about the last 3 years to get him to sign an extension or sign a new deal. But clearly he wants to leave his options open. And, that's the way the game goes, isn't it? Players do this a lot more these days.
Yeah, leaving the options open, I can understand. And I don't think the last 6 months of last season helped. That was turbulent.
Sure,
I was at Tottenham 4 years, 4 different managers, but I have to tell you, it was never inside the training ground. It was never turbulent. We weren't. But last season, I came over at the end of last season. I was at Anfield for the game up there, and I had never known a time at Tottenham where you have your sporting director banned from football. Conte, had just gone. Ryan Mason, who's also a Tottenham guy and a really good football brains, taking the team. He's young. The players, there were some that were obviously behind him, some that were, sort of, am I at the club? And it was a really surreal feeling for me to see that. And I think that may have had a little part to play in this, where Harry Kane might turn this deal down, but he also might just see, okay, let's see how Postecoglou, builds this team. But more importantly than that, because I've heard great things about Postecoglou, is how he deals with the board. And is there going to be that, I always say the most important position at Tottenham is that conduit between the board and between the manager. That's the most important figure at Tottenham, not at every club, just at Tottenham, because Daniel has his ways and the board have their ways, and financially they are always going to be in a superb position, and that's incredible. And the fans should be happy about that. But then there's also some decisions that are made that will upset managers. And we've had a host of some of the world's best managers at the club, and they come in and they leave. They come in and they leave. They're sooner or later someone's got to stay.
Yeah, it does feel like all this does strengthen Ange Postecoglou's position, whether he goes or whether he leaves. If he goes, I think his position is so strong because he's got so much to point at and go, well, I haven't got the main striker and it happened late.
We're going to chat to Postecoglou's biographer about this later on, and Danny Murphy said the same thing earlier on to the guys, that it kind of gives him an out to say, well, I lost Harry Kane 3 days before the season starts. I don't doubt for a minute Conte or Jose would have lent on that. I just sense from Postecoglou that's not the mark of the man. I don't think he'll do that. I don't think he'll use that as an excuse if Harry Kane goes now.
I think one thing Daniel Daniel Levy is not dishonest. He would, when he was speaking with Postecoglou, he would have told him exactly what the situation is with Harry Kane. So Postecoglou would have known that he might be going, he might be staying. And if it was unknown, he would have told him it's an unknown. So Postecoglou, by all accounts, from the people at Celtic that I know that work with him, and what I've heard from him here is he'll have two plans.
Sure.
He's I think he knew he was going to have that. It's so difficult.
It's a shame he has to have two, though, Brad, because really, should it be coming to this point? Should we be getting to 3 days before Tottenham's first Premier League game, and we don't know whether one of their biggest players of all time is still going to be there or not?
Well, that's a different talking point on the timing of everything. But I think when he came in, he knew that this is an unknown, that Harry Kane may go. And I don't think for a second that Harry Kane met Postecoglou and then saw training and now all of a sudden wants to leave. I don't think that for a second. And actually, I think probably the reverse. I think after meeting him and seeing, he's probably thinking, oh, wow, this might work.
There's some doubt, yeah.
But like, so Paul Mitchell was so important when Mauricio Pochettino was at the club. And he had, you can tell, was it 4 years, 5 years or something of that nature at the club. And he was really building something. You know, and that needs to happen. If Postecoglou is that good as people are telling me, then let him build. Let him stay. Let him stay through the bad times. Let him stay there and build, because it's not always going to be great.
Paul Hawksby and Andy Jacobs, Monday to Friday afternoons, 1 till 4. On AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.